all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly value, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. How we doing today, y'all? How are we doing today? I see there was a spirited debate. I can't read it all, but seemed interesting. How y'all doing today? Okay. So I ran across this Instagram post, right? And this is a lady, she got an African accent. So I can only assume that this is a church in Africa, perhaps. Or if it's in America, it's in an African community. But I want y'all to listen to this lady. Okay? And I want y'all to listen well to what she is saying. So
marriage does not complete a woman. Repetition. You've had it over and over and over. Are you married? To even talk, I'm not married. Shut up. It is not marriage that completes a woman. If you are an incomplete woman, you will meet and marry an incomplete man, and you will have an incomplete marriage. Don't let society define how you feel about yourself. That you are not married does not make you inferior. That you are married does not make you superior to anyone that is not married. It's a calling. And stop oppressing me with your marriage. What is it that you have that you did not receive? And why dress thou as if thou did not receive it? It's not because you are the prettiest. It's not because you were a virgin. It's not because you know how to keep a home. There are women that if they were married, they can floor you. Let's correct this error. When you begin to feel inferior, you are not inferior to anybody. Stay on your lane. You may never hold a microphone to preach. You're not inferior. Marriage does not complete a woman.
okay. The main thing, and we're going to go over what she said to a certain degree. But the main thing that I want to point out and that I want to focus on is if we don't know that the ideals of feminism is a destabilizing agent for an entire civilization and society, then we still have not understood what our problem is as a group and why we have been so egregiously the victims of colonization over and over again. Okay? Because the first problem is that she's a preacher. See, even back in the day, old school Christians, of which I grew up, and we didn't know nothing about no Hebrew Israelites or nothing. We didn't know nothing about all that. But just growing up in the 80s and all that stuff and going to church in them good old Church of God in Christ church, especially in a Pentecostal church, Baptist missionary Baptist church, any of them churches, we did not do female preachers. All of the reverends, bishops, the pastors, and stuff like that was all men. And I kind of remember when the turning point, because we wouldn't really even attend the church, it got a complete side eye if the pastor was female. Like, why y'all got a woman? A woman is a pastor? You would get a side eye. You would get a side eye. And we kind of wouldn't go to your church. Go what you talking about. And it wasn't that we necessarily didn't think that the women may have read the Bible or that women couldn't be spiritual. But the leadership position over the church, that just didn't seem right. So we didn't attend churches that had women preachers and stuff. Now it's much more common than it used to be. But I'm not even going to focus on that aspect of it. I wanted to focus on the destabilizing agent. The destabilizing agent that is feminist thought and ideology, which is what she's spewing. Why do I call it a destabilizing agent? Because what's the first thing that feminist ideology break? What's the first thing that it breaks? What's the first thing that it breaks? Somebody put it in the chat. Thank you. Feminism breaks the family. Breaks the family. Breaks the family. Okay. And the main way that it go about breaking the family is to infiltrate the thoughts of the woman. The infiltration of the thought of females to interrupt their thought process. It is an interruption of her thought process to get her away from the purpose for which she is created. By introducing certain ideologies, thoughts, things of that nature that are the antithesis of the purpose of her creation. So here we have a woman who is in a pulpit somewhere, wherever that's at. I didn't see a Bible in her hand. I didn't hear her reference exact verses that backed up what she was saying. I didn't hear her give any legitimate references to support what she was saying to those women. They were gobbling it up because they were writing it down. Okay, because she's in a position of teaching them. She is a spiritual leader of them. They have accepted her as such. Regardless of the Bible saying what it say, they have accepted her as a spiritual leader. Right? But she cannot and did not, at least in that clip, utilize any of the parts of the Bible or anything to support her argument. Because how can you speak against the purpose of women while trying to say that you are so spiritually in tune that you can interpret basically what the Bible is saying and convey it to your congregation in a way that they can absorb and understand? You cannot do that. You cannot do that. Because it's literally the antithesis of what God says. The purpose of women is men. The very first thing that a woman has to do is worship her Lord. She has to recognize who her God is. Just like that is the first purpose of every human being's creation. The purpose of our creation is to worship our Creator. That's the main purpose and goal. That's the main objective. To not leave this world in a state of disbelief, where we don't believe and we don't know and we have not acknowledged, recognized, nor worshiped the Creator as the Creator has stated it must be worshiped. That's number one. In line with that objective is to fulfill the purpose, the mundane, the worldly purpose of our creation. That's a spiritual purpose. Okay? But we have a duty in this world, in this physical world, in this life that we have in earth, to do things in a particular way, to engage with certain things and to disengage with other things. You following me so far? So he gave us purposes based on our psychological makeup, our physical makeup, and basically our overall biology. Man was created, woman was created not as his opposite, but as a complementary piece, so that men and women could work together to achieve the goals set before humankind. And one of women's main objectives outside of the worship of the Most High is to support the men, namely her husband, to support him. But in order to support your husband, you got to be married. You can't support a husband that you don't have. You cannot support a husband you do not acquire. So if you do not acquire the husband, then you cannot fulfill that directive of helping him to achieve the overarching goal and any sub goals that support the main goal. So when I say feminism is a destabilizing agent, I mean that in every sense of that phrase. To destabilize a community, a society, any group of people of any size, you have to misalign their values. The first thing you got to do is the misalignment of the value. That is what I mean by to change the thinking process of the woman. Misalign her value so that her values no longer align with the men of her society, her community, and things of that nature. To misalign her. Okay? Misalign. If you misalign the men and the women, and then not only misalign them, but ensure that they remain misaligned, that they no longer see the same goals nor aspire to them. In other words, you encourage the women to not accept correction, to convince her that she is completely right and that there can be no correction to this mindset because this mindset is the absolute truth and it cannot be subverted. In the next half, I'm going to go point to point with what she's talking about. We're going to go point to point because she's saying a lot in it's word salad, but she's saying a lot. She's saying enough. And the reason I'm saying she's saying a lot is because she's saying enough to misalign these women. It was important to seat these things within a church because churches and other places of worship are places where values are instilled. Do we understand? It is important. It's an important step for true destabilization and misalignment to do so from the spiritual value, to first corrupt the spiritual value. And what is that? That to introduce lies. Okay? The backwardsness of the spiritual value, how you set that backwards, is that you begin to introduce lies to it. Because your spiritual value is what you think, what you feel, and what you believe. Once you put something in somebody's heart and mind, what they think and feel and believe, it's almost impossible to get them to change that. Okay? So to enter you into the lost value system, the first thing that you have to do is corrupt the spiritual value. And the way in which you corrupt The spiritual value is you begin to introduce lies to it. Start introducing lies into it. Now, you can't come with a big, crazy lie. You got to come with gradual little lies, subverting of the thought process. This don't really make sense. I mean, think about it. That kind of thing. I mean, when you really dissect this part and then you read that part, I mean, do that really make sense? This is what your preacher told you, but I mean, do that make sense to you? I mean, think about it. Da-da-da. See, that type of thought. The shaitan is busy. He's slick. He's slick. He's slick. He put a little lie in there. It don't feel like a lie. It don't feel like a lie. It feel like the light bulb is coming on. It feel like, an intriguing new little line of thought. It's intriguing. That's interesting. Okay. So the little bitty lie and the little lie here and there, disguised as good intent, disguised as goodwill, disguised as the truth, disguised as, we just looking out for your own best interests. This all is happening. Just get you to think a little bit. Just get you to think about it. Just get you to think. Get you to kind of think. And then next thing you know, you believe lots of lies. And the next thing you know, you have been subverted away from the truth in such a way that you will not repent for it. That's the key. You are subverted away from the truth in such a manner that you don't repent. Why wouldn't you repent? Because you don't believe that you're wrong. That's why you don't. That's why you don't repent, because you think you've reasoned out that you're correct. Right? There's a way that seemeth right unto a man. You understand? Because it look okay. I mean, it look okay. Right? The shaitan's arguments are convincing when you don't look at them from the lens of righteousness. His lies do sound good. I mean, it sounds like he got an unassailable position. That's what it sounds like. Shaitan, let's not act like the stuff that he say don't sound mighty fine. So the way in which he subverts is to convince that, listen, this is correct. This is the truth. This is how it is. This is how it is. Huh? You know this how it is. His arguments are convincing when you don't examine it through the lens of righteousness. when you don't have God's guidance to discern where the lie is and the destruction of that lie, then you will be misled. Okay? I hope y'all getting I think y'all getting what I'm picking up what I'm putting down. So when we have this individual in a church home, a place where people come to hear what they think is God's word from a person that they are presuming to be spiritually connected, or at least more connected than they are, that they have a better sense of discernment, and essentially people that are more pious, that understand the Bible better, or whatever book, that understand it better than we do and are able to relay the information in a way that we can absorb easily and things like that. You know, you go to church to get a new lesson or to get a new perspective on something or things of that nature. Maybe they go over a few verses that you've never read, and you know, you get an idea about them and things of that nature, right? So what better place to corrupt the spiritual value than a spiritual place? A place where you go to get spiritually fed. What better place to misalign you and misguide you than that? Because it gives it an air of what's the term I'm looking for? Divine. It gives it an air of divinity, divine, like sanction, divine sanction. So therefore you don't feel too easy to go against it. Just like an air of authority, right? And more importantly, an air of divine authority, right? Just like the monarchs of old, the king was representative of God because he could only be king through divine authority. So the king's word was like the word of God. It was law. His word was law, no matter how unjust it was. You understand? So similarly, people go to their religious institutions to receive spiritual edification. But what happens when that edification go against God and everything he said? And the people who are listening to it are eager to receive it because it aligns not with a sense of righteousness, but with their own nafs, their own desires, stuff they want to do anyway. That's why them women was writing it down. We're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to go point for point. We're going to go through the clip again, and we're going to talk about the different points and why it's dangerous. See, you got to be able to hear the lie when you're hearing it, or at least be able to dissect it before you fall into its trap. The devil is very slick. He's not impossible to overcome, but he's very slick. So anyway, after these messages, we'll be right back So I need everybody to go to ashkicking.com and get some of the absolute most silkiest, most wonderful, quick, easy absorbing, smooth, smelling good body butter that you will ever receive. It's very creamy. It's not too thick. It's not too thin. It's actually just right. It absorbs into the skin very quickly. So even though it's getting warm outside, you can put your body butter on and you can go outside and you don't feel it. I know that you've gotten body butter or sometimes shea butter or whatever, and it's too thick for the summertime because it don't absorb too fast, and then you almost feel like you're cooking if it get too hot or if you're in the direct sunlight. Well, you don't have to worry about that with ashkicking.com's body butter. They absolutely do the best job possible with this is the high quality personal care items. If it's gonna be your very first order, you need to take advantage of the 10% discount using the promo code Crimson. And you also need to hit the link, which is at the top of the chat, for ashkicking.com. I don't know how many likes I need, but I owe y'all a bam, 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 bam. You gotta hit the like button, bam, bam. You gotta Let me get to the super chat. Thank you, Miss Lou Casely, for the super stick. I appreciate you. Thank you, John Teals. Any man in there nodding along and agreeing need to report to the nearest rainbow. Thank you, moguls. Exactly. Whatever they explain the destruction of the Black family community, they just bypass that part. Exactly. Thank you, Theo, for your support. I appreciate you so very much. Thank you so much, sis. Said the Black church in and of itself is not about building family. Rather, it's about keeping people single and serving the church. They use Paul's words to encourage singleness and perpetual service. So I was a devout Christian for 20 years. And throughout that time, I was encouraged to serve the church and wait passively for a husband. Once I became an Israelite, I met my husband 2 months later. Thank you, Chick. It's a shame when women want to false preach. Thank you once again, Sister Beshua said, if you're single in one marriage, they will manipulate you and say that you are making marriage your God. It's pathetic. Thank you, Eugene. Says it's bad enough biblically to have a woman a pastor. It's even worse to have such a pastor spewing out feminist antics. What does this tell you about the state of the Black church? Thank you, Farmer U Hadin said, preach. Thank you so much. And thank you, Steve, for your contribution. I appreciate you, sweetheart, of course. All right. So we're going to go over what she's talking about. Okay. Because it's complete nonsense. Okay, before we do that, I want to make sure everybody understands. Thank you, Ezekiel, for gifting a membership, and to whoever got that membership.
But now you have been promoted. You are now one of my elite employees.
So we're going to go through what she's talking about thing for thing. So I'm gonna refresh it.
Marriage does not complete a woman. Repetition. You've had it over and over and over. Are you married? To even talk, I'm not married. Shut up.
Now, the first problem is she said marriage does not complete a woman. Yes, it do. Marriage completes women as much as it completes men. Why do you think there are two halves that complement one another? Why? Marriage completes both. Men are incomplete without the helpmeet in their life. Women are incomplete without the leader in her life. It's incomplete. It's incomplete. I don't know all that the Bible say about it because it's been many a year since I read the Bible from cover to cover. But in the English paraphrasing of one of the verses of Quran, is Allah is saying that in marriage, the husband is the cover for the wife, and the wife is the cover for the husband. We are the covers one for another. So there is an incompleteness when we do not come together in marital bonds. There is an incompleteness there. Now, what I don't like about what she's saying is you gotta think about how slick this is, how slick it is. Why is it slick? Because what women are supposed to hear here is that she's saying, when she say marriage don't complete you, non-marriage doesn't make you a bad person. See, Shaitan say something and then he put the subliminal underneath what he say, so that your subconscious captures the true meaning of the words that your consciousness capture. Do you understand? So the subconscious thought is, oh, well, she's telling me that if I'm single, that doesn't make me a bad person. See, nobody said that. Nobody said that single women are automatically bad women. Nobody, absolutely nobody. Do you understand the correlation? She's saying marriage doesn't complete a woman, right? She's gonna speak more. But see, you know how people sometimes say, well, speak the quiet part out loud. That's what they're talking about. What is the subconscious meaning of the word that is being spoken? So the reason why women are pacified by things like this is because they're getting that, oh, well, I'm not a bad person. Okay, because I thought I was a bad person. See, nobody said you was a bad person for being single, because most women are going to find themselves single at some portion of their life. Even if she's young and just coming out of her family's home, there's probably going to be a period of her life where she is not married. But that don't make her bad. That's not the bad part. Simply not being married doesn't make you a bad person. The thing that we're getting at when we talk is the mindset that maintains singlehood and does not allow the woman to lend herself to a marriage at all. Do you get what I mean? So let's go back.
It is not marriage that completes a woman. If you are an incomplete woman, you will meet and marry an incomplete man, and you will have an incomplete marriage. Don't let society define how you feel about yourself.
Now, one thing I want you to notice is she's saying marriage doesn't complete a woman. What's the part she doesn't say? What's the part she didn't say? She's saying marriage doesn't complete a woman, but she doesn't tell a congregation of women what completes women. Do you understand? If marriage is not the completing of a woman, she never says marriage doesn't complete you, but this does. She just takes marriage off the table, but she doesn't put something in its place. You're supposed to fill that blank in on your own. And who better to help you fill that blank in but Shaitan? Shaitan will help you fill it.
That you are not married does not make you inferior. That you are married does not make you superior to anyone that is not married.
So now she's playing on women's inferiority and superiority issues. Let me break that down a little bit. That's one of the ploys of feminism. One of the main ploys of feminism is to get women to view her helpmeet status as a detriment to her rather than a compliment to her and something that is a good thing and make it a bad thing to her, to convince her that there's something wrong with the status that the Most High gave her, which is to be underneath the leadership and the system, order, and structure of her husband. Men in general, to women in general, but more specifically, a wife to a husband. That is an old Shaitan's play. When we go back to Hawa alayhi salam and the deception that the Shaitan played with her. See, one thing we have to understand is that was not a one-time thing. He didn't just come up and say, hey, disobey everything that you heard and do this. And then she did it. Very long time. It actually was over a long course of time. The little thing, well, think about it. Well, just mull over it. Just mull over it. Just think the planting of the seed, which is sort of, and the reason why the inferior superior thing was a big ploy for Shaitan is because he is inferior. He was created in a way, or rather I would say Adam, peace be upon him, was created in a way to be superior to Shaitan. And he was notified of this. This was apparent upon Adam's creation that this vessel, this thing is, first of all, not like me and not like the angels in its creation. The material itself is different. And so it's the thing that notified Shaitan that Adam was better than him just by virtue of existing was that he was ordered to bow along with the angels. And Shaitan, being a jinn and having his own will, decided not to do that, at which point he becomes Shaitan. So he has a perpetual inferiority complex to Adam, and by extension, humankind. not just men, but humankind. He has a inferiority because he is inferior. He is of an inferior makeup, both his physical makeup and his mental makeup. So he comes to Hawa to play on that. Well, you're inferior too, aren't you? And she is. He's not lying. That was not a lie. She is inferior. But then what happens is he starts playing on, well, this is bad. This is a bad thing, don't you think? Don't you think you kind of got the short end of that stick a little bit there? Don't you? I mean, what's your value here? Like, you just made to be what? Like a slave or something? So you like that position? I mean, if God was just, he wouldn't have put you in that position, right? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just talking to you. I mean, I ain't trying to make you do nothing. I'm just saying, like, if you think about it a little bit, right? Why would that be your position? See what I'm saying? And that's what he do. And that's what he do. And that's what feminism is. That's the basis of feminine. That's the basis of it. This is how we know it's Shaitani. This is how we know it's of a system born of something that he would make, which is why it destabilizes the human being and why the spiritual aspect must be attacked first. In order to make this destabilization, he has to attack her spiritually. He attacked Hawa spiritually. He attacked her spiritually. And he used his intellect to do it. Because remember his position and her position. Even though he's inferior to her in his makeup, he's intelligent at that time. He has been existing for eons. She just got here. And she doesn't know anything about who he is and what he's done. She doesn't know this. She wasn't present for that. So he didn't come to her as what he was. He came to her as a well-wisher. He came to her as a thing in the garden that was there, like all the other beings in the garden that was, I mean, they was good. So he utilized his intellect over her to corrupt her spiritually. I hope I ain't losing people. Her spirit was under attack. She eventually succumbs to this attack and disobeys Allah's order at this point. Now, this is kind of where Muslims kind of diverge away from the Christian belief, because we're taught that both she and Adam repented and were forgiven for that. So she was able to be brought into correction. She wasn't left like that. She was able to be brought into correction and accepted the correction. But the reason why I went into all of that is because I need people to understand that it is a spiritual attack before it's anything else. If you corrupt the spirit, everything else will break down. That is the nature. That in and of itself is the entire nature of the lost value system. To break the spiritual, introduce lies to it such that it no longer contains enough truth to guide you out, and then everything else falls like a domino. Everything else falls like a domino, because the spiritual value is the foundation from which all other values stem. And if your spiritual value is completely compromised, then the way in which you perceive the rest of the values will also be compromised. Do we understand? This is why when we say get on the correct value system, that's why spirit is number one, because it's the foundation. You can't work backwards. You can't skip steps. You have to secure the spiritual value first, so that all the rest of the values, you can actually perceive them from a righteous standpoint and then do it. The foundation of the lost value system is a lie, and the foundation of the 10 life values is the truth. That is as simple as I can put that. That is as simple as I can put that. I'm not trying to throw nobody off with, you know what I'm saying? When I talk like this, I want people to understand. When I speak this way, when I start talking in a more spiritual, when I start talking about Shaitan, and I start talking about the Most High, and I start talking about Allah and all this kind of stuff, I'm not trying to convert nobody or nothing. But we are, whether you Muslim, Hebrew Israelite, Christian, or whatever it is you are, we're aligned enough here that we can see that, because that's a general scope of spirituality. Right? So I'm not proselytizing to anyone, and I hope that nobody takes it that way. But I need people to understand what we really fighting. And until we as a group of people can rectify ourselves spiritually, we will not be able to climb out of it. We cannot. We can't. Because it is a spiritual warfare. We're battling against principalities, evil in high places. That's not just the people. It's not even just the institution. It's the engine that drives it. And the engine that drives it is Shaitan and all of his shayateen. That's the energy that's driving it. We're going to go back to, I just got a few more minutes left.
It's a calling. And stop oppressing me with your marriage. What is it that you have that you did not receive? And why dress thou as if thou did not receive it? It's not because you are the prettiest. It's not because you were a virgin. It's not because you know how to keep a home.
So here she's engaging in basically the denigration of wifehood. We have to understand that at this juncture of her little speech, she's denigrating the station of wifehood. She's making it low. I mean, you being married doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you are any like special. So what, you know how to do this, and so what, you know how to do that, and so she is denigrating the position, the station of wifehood in general. Don't oppress me with your marriage. Because women are married and the single women are mad. So now the married women have to be ashamed. See, that's the quiet part out loud. To bring shame to the righteous thing, to make an evil fair seeming, and to make good appear evil. Because we would shame something that is not right. We bring shame to what's not right. So first she attributed wanting to be married to society, overlooking the fact that marriage is a spiritual institution, not a societal one. It's not a governmental one. It's a spiritual one. Marriage is sanctioned by Allah. Adam and Hawa was married. According to Hadith, it was Allah that performed the nikah ceremony for them. No state, no paper, no authorizations. So marriage is a spiritual institution. That marriage itself is the order and the institution created by the Most High. Not by the state, not by your country, not by your governmental bodies. That come way later. Marriage has always, up until recent history, marriage has always been seen as a spiritual act, not a licensed or paperwork act. Had nothing to do with anything. It was usually performed by spiritual leaders of wherever community that you were in or whatever spiritual system you was a part of. Your spiritual leaders were usually the ones that presided over whatever was your ceremony. The purpose of the ceremony is to allow the community to understand that this is a divinely sanctioned thing and we are not just fornicating. So what she is saying is that it should be shameful to be a wife. That the position that the Most High designated for women as an honorable station for women to help them achieve their purposes in life, He made the position honorable. He made the position honorable for wives. A wife has always been an honored position over and above other stations that women may find themselves in society. A whore was always the worst, and a wife was the best. So somehow in feminism, wives are shameful. And a single woman eventually becomes a whore. And I don't mean sexually all the time. I don't just mean that in a sexual way. She has to put herself under, she has to ask many men to do for her what a husband would do. And I don't mean that in a sexual way, because if she's single and let's say something go on in the house and her plumbing get bad or something back up, she got to call the maintenance of the building or she got to call the plumbers or something. And they have to tell her they got to come in her home. They got to come in her home. where she lay in her private domain and be in there for X amount of time, however long it's going to take for him to fix whatever is going on. And then if there are follow-up instructions about what she has to do to maintain the repair or, whatever, she's got to follow this strange man's SOS about it. Do you understand? If something goes on with her car, there's no man, she got to take it to a mechanic. And so whatever the mechanic says, and he says this is wrong with it, and if she don't know much about cars, or if he's trying to fool her about it or upcharge her about it or things of that nature, she got to accept the SOS of that man. I spent about, I want to say 5 or 6 years single, right? And I experienced this. I'm not exempt from that. Having to go to different men for different things. Now, I wasn't having sex with these men. These were all business transactions, correct? However, I still had to, the men had to come into my home. You got to, depending on what's going on, you got to give them certain information, and things of that nature, and all of that, right? You got to do all of that. So that's what I mean by a single woman eventually kind of has to enter into these multiple transactional, even though they're temporary, these temporary transactional relationships with various men in order to get things done. Right? And I think we got time for one more thing.
There are women that if they were married, they can floor you. Let's correct this error. When you begin to feel inferior, you are not inferior to anybody. Stay on your lane.
That's probably the last thing I'm going to go over. Anytime a person has an inferior like thing or even a superior thing, that don't have nothing to do with other people. Nothing. That's a you problem. If you feel inferior to people, then you need to work on your inferiority complexes. Because apparently you are insecure about whatever. Because if a woman is in a group of women and she says, well, I'm married, and the single women feel a way about her being married and automatically make certain assumptions about her being married and maybe how she views them as having not been married, that's something that those single women need to deal with. Because maybe you're single for all the wrong reasons. There's a reason you feel a type of way about it. Because a married woman just stating that she's married shouldn't make a single woman feel inferior, should it? That shouldn't automatically be like, oh, well, she thinks she better than me because she married. Nobody said that. The part that make them feel some type of way is that they know that they're out of alignment. And the other thing that make them feel some type of way is that they realize that they are not fulfilling their purpose as women. They're not fulfilling it. And they know that. The third thing about it is that what kind of man, whether or not a woman can get a man, keep a man, is a criteria that women are measured on as a criteria of her femininity and her womanhood. If men are judged on their productivity to measure whether they're successful men, to in part measure their masculinity, right? So a man that is not productive in his own life, right? He's in his 30s, he's in his 40s, and he's just not a productive individual. Other men rank him low. Oh man, you ain't got nothing going. What do you even do? What do you even do? Why? Because him being unproductive actually goes against his directive, his purposes as a man. It goes against it. It's working against it. So other men are like, And if men have a measuring stick, then women also have a measuring stick. And our measuring stick is how well we can be a helpmeet, or whether we can even fulfill that station at all. Women are judged. We judge each other on what kind of men we attract, what kind of men we can secure, which kind of men marry us. Why do you think all the women want these high status, high value? Because that brings her a status. See, this is the kind of man that wants me. This is the kind of man I can draw. And every single woman, I don't care where she come from, feel that way. We are trying to attract the best possible man in our scope to attract. Because ain't no woman bragging about being attractive to a homeless man. Do you understand? No woman is bragging on that. Because she want to be able to say, well, my husband is this, this, and that. My husband do this and that. I do it. I will brag on Unc in a minute. Because he got qualities that I can brag on. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Because his status do reflect my status as a woman. Because if I could only attract bums and scrubs, that reflects what kind of woman I am and what kind of value I have intrinsically as a woman. So that is the measuring stick. That is the measuring stick. Whether women want to face that or not. Feminism tell you that women shouldn't have a measuring stick of our womanhood. And yes, it do. Yes, we do. And the measuring stick of our womanhood has almost everything to do with men. And what kind of man is attracted to you? Which kind of man can you actually secure in a relationship with you? And every woman in this chat can attest to that. Because if your husband was of a shameful kind of man, you wouldn't tell nobody that was your man. You wouldn't tell nobody that was your man. We have laughed at men that was like, you want me to come over there with you? Oh boy, no. I wouldn't dare. I don't want you to be calling me your woman. I'm not your woman. We'll do that in a minute. Mm-mm. No, I don't want to be with you. Mm-mm. We'll shake our head and turn our nose up in a hot second, baby. Because it's a direct reflection. What kind of man am I? What kind of woman am I? What kind of woman am I? Because if I only attack toxic, bummy, scrubby, good for nothing men, then I am a scruffy, bummy, good for nothing female, because men of a higher, status and better mindset, men who have their stuff together, don't want nothing to do with me. That's a problem. Why come the men don't want to have nothing to do with me? Why come them men shake their head and turn their nose up? So that's the measuring stick for women. That women can play that game and play these little word games and talking about, that don't make you, that don't complete you as a woman. That don't make you better or worse. What kind of man? We don't really be needing men. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That tell you everything. That tell the world everything that it need to know about what kind of woman you is, by what kind of man it done locked you down, was able to lock you down. Because that's all reflective of what you found acceptable as a man, for a man. And why was he able to lock you down? And if he ain't nothing, that means you ain't nothing. Conversely, if he is, spiritually sound and he got his life together and stuff like that, and he was interested enough in you to lock you down as his wife, that means that you have value. All people want to play games. But I'm not going to play no games. It is what it is. Women have a measuring stick for our womanhood. And it is intrinsically tied to men. Thank you, Bernard. Said become a complete woman first, then seek marriage. Sound familiar? School, career, money, and finally, after the hitting the wall, look for marriage. Correct. That's what that means. That's what that is. Thank you, United South, for your super stick and your support. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bertram. Said back in the day, all we needed was a broom and a spiritual person to preside over a simple ceremony. Thank you. Thank you, Joan, for your super stick and support. Thank you one more time for Ezekiel for gifting a membership to someone and to that person.
But now you have been promoted. You are now one of my elite employees.
Hey there, Miss Bella. Say happy belated birthday. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. And thank you, Mrs. KP, for becoming a member.
But now you have been promoted. You are now one of my elite employees.
That's a gauge on who you are as a woman. I got one more example before I get out of here. Y'all know Ben Affleck is about to divorce J-Lo, right? Put a one in the chat if you heard about it. He tired of her. He's so tired of her. J-Lo has had success in the music genre. J-Lo has had a little bit of success in acting and just entertainment all the way around. J-Lo has been known since she came out for being pretty, and she's been lauded for her beauty and how sexy she was and this and that. What can't J-Lo do? For all of that, what can't she do? She can't keep no man. For all of that, she can't keep a man. Ben Affleck spent the block to come back and get J-Lo, because they dated years ago when J-Lo was hot to trot, baby. She was Jenny from the block, baby. And she thought she was better than him. Because Ben Affleck seemed like he just kind of laid back and kind of a square little guy, I don't know why he broke up with Jennifer Garner. I thought they was the perfect couple because they just seemed like two little square folk that just done found love to one another. He was married to Jennifer Garner probably about 14 years or so. After they got divorced and stuff like that for a little while, after a while, he circled back around to J-Lo. First of all, lesson number 1, never spin the block. Never spin the block. Y'all didn't make it for a reason. So he spent the block and he got with J-Lo, and she is past the wall and everything. But past the wall or not, she's still suffering from pretty privilege. She still thinks she got it. I just want you to look at the body language. He is just outdone, honey. That man so tired of her. That man so tired of her. That man tired. That man is tired of her. This man is tired of her. This man is tired of her, y'all. Just look at the body language. This man so tired of her. Just look at the look on his face. He looks stressed out. She done stressed that man out in the morning. He's so tired. Okay. He tired. He tired of her. For all of her successes, and she J-Lo, and every man wanted her. Back in the day, boy, she was everywhere. Everybody wanted a little bit of J-Lo. Everybody, just Jennifer Lopez. Couldn't get enough of Jennifer Lopez. And now she with the man that probably simped after her at some point that she ain't want. And she looked like she irked that man last nerve every day. She irked that man nerve. She ain't brought that man a day of peace since they've been back together. She played along like she was going to be all right. And he went on ahead and married her. She had them red flags. Them the same flags she waved in his face years ago. She waved them again. It was like this last time. She waved him like this time. And then he went on married her because I'm in love with Jennifer Lopez. And she ain't brought him a moment's peace. She been a Tasmanian devil in that house that whole time. She complained. She looked like that's what she do. She complain. Everything is a little problem. She got a little attitude. Can't, unpleasable. You can't really make her happy. You try to do stuff with it. You try to do. I just don't feel like it. Ben. Yeah, she one of them. She one of them. All the while thinking she's so fine as to where you go put up with her. No. Still ain't learned that lesson. Jennifer, how old now? Still ain't learned that you being fine, baby. When you was in your prime, you wasn't fine enough for a man to keep on with that foolishness. How you were Mark Anthony to death. That man said, if you don't get out of my life, girl, woo. And Mark looked like he didn't take a lot of foolishness, but you're not gonna worry me. You're not gonna worry me to death. Go. But get out. Couldn't keep A-Rod. Can't keep no man. Can't keep no man. Can't keep no man. See how all that other stuff don't matter because she can't keep no man. That's all folks can talk about, how she can't keep no man. Anybody talking about them little bad concerts with them little low ticket sales. Baby, you can't keep being Affleck, and he look like he easy to keep. Is she a hyena? I got a new member. Hey, Tanasia, thank you so much, sweetheart.
Now you have been promoted. You are now one of my elite employees.
Bernard makes a good point. So Nigeria is experiencing a severe economic crisis right now. Men are struggling to support their families with high inflation. Perfect time to destabilize the family unit. They always use the economy. They use the environment to affect biology and culture. And this is how you get into the lost value system. But thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to get on up out of here. Jump down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Once again, I'm your hostess, the Crimson Cure, and this was my perspective. Bye-bye, Crimsonites.